All right, it's time for the first preview of 49ers Ravens. This is one of the most highly touted games in NFL regular season history, so we can get us started a little bit early with the analysis. If you noticed, even the post-game show of 49ers Cardinals, I was already talking about the Ravens. Hell, even leading up into the game at Arizona for San Francisco, I was talking about the Ravens. And why the hell not? Because this is going to be a big one. Now, the 49ers, they may have some pressure taken off of them by the fact that Seattle beat Philadelphia last night, but the NFL, weird stuff happens. You can't take any victories for granted. The Rams are surging right now, and they're going to be making a very, very fervent playoff push. They play the 49ers in week 18. I don't think you can chalk that up as an automatic win. And then you look at this battle coming up against the Ravens. It's going to be a Monday night game. The 49ers and Baltimore, both of those teams are going to have to turn around and play on a short week after that. For San Francisco, it's a cross-country trip to Washington. So anytime you play on a short week in the NFL, especially late in the season, anytime fatigue indicators are going off as they are for the 49ers with all those missed tackles defensively, you can't take anything for granted. You can't take the short week game against Washington for granted. You can't take the week 18 game against the Rams, who are probably still going to be gunning for a playoff spot, for granted. So you want to win every single time that you're out there. So more pressure or not, there still is NFL type pressure on this game as the 49ers try to hold on to that number one spot and secure the playoff bye. And boy, when you look at this game, the 49ers, they're a top 5 team offensively and defensively. This is DVOA. The Ravens are a top 5 team offensively and defensively. It is the first time in NFL history that we've had 2 top 5 teams, both offensively and defensively, square off this late in the season. It's the first time period we've had 2 top 5 teams offensively and defensively this late in the year. To give you an idea of historical perspective for this matchup, let me share this with you. This is the DVOA, defense adjusted value over average. And as you can see, Baltimore 2023 11-3, 38.7% above average production. They are the 11th best team in NFL history through 14 games. Number 4 offense, number 2 defense. Meanwhile, the 49ers, even better than the Ravens, are the number 3 team in history through 14 games. Number 1 offense, number 4 defense. Now, the special teams for the 49ers has been an issue. They rank number 24. Special teams has won games for the Ravens. They have Justin Tucker. They also beat the Rams on an overtime punt return. They're number 8. So beware of special teams. That's the first thing that stands out to me when I look at this. But the historical perspective is what is just awesome here. DVOA calculates the performance of a team versus what the rest of the league is doing. And it's going to calculate it in a sophisticated way, not just raw yardage. It's going to look at down and distance. It's going to look at efficiency of gains. And it's all obviously going to take into account strength of opposition. The 49ers are 46.7% cumulatively above the league average. The only 2 teams better than them, 2007 New England, 1991 Washington. 2007 New England was the team that went undefeated up until the Super Bowl. 91 Washington did win the Super Bowl. So Washington was 49.3% above average. New England was 54.4% above average at this point of the season. I think if the 49ers beat the Ravens, and especially if they beat them convincingly, since strength of opponent is taken into account for DVOA, the 49ers will at least leapfrog Washington to become the second best team through 15 games in terms of DVOA. Thanks to Aaron Schatz for those numbers. But I think that they help put into perspective the titanic matchup that we see here. We have 2 teams who are very strong offensively and very strong defensively. Now, if there's a key fracture point, it is that the Ravens are number 1 in rushing offense. They just lost Keaton Mitchell, their running back for the season with ACL, but they still have Gus Edwards. They still have Lamar Jackson. Their quarterback has over 700 rushing yards this season. This is a bruising rushing offense, and the 49ers have been struggling on run defense. Number 18 run defense. It was even worse than that at Arizona without two starting defensive tackles, Eric Armstead and Javon Hargrave. So we're going to keep a close look at the health statuses of those two starting defensive tackles, because that's going to be absolutely imperative against the Baltimore team that runs the ball at will against most opponents. If you want to take a look at the overarching team tiers of what's happening with the 49ers and the Ravens, you can see this right here. The 49ers are a tier 1 team. They're favored in this game by 5.5 points. The reason they're favored is because analytically they've been better than everyone else, especially lately, but this takes into account the whole season. The 49ers on the x-axis offensively are way above any other offense. On the y-axis defensively, well, it's not been quite as good, but they're still above average. Meanwhile, the Ravens, they're the second best defense in the league, second only to the Browns, who obviously beat the 49ers earlier this year. But unlike the Browns, and the Ravens, remember, they're the former Browns. The Browns moved from Cleveland to Baltimore and changed their name to the Ravens. These are the new Browns over here. But the former Browns, or the Ravens, hope you're not confused yet, have a better offense than the new Browns. The Ravens have Lamar Jackson. They have Odell Beckham Jr. They have Gus Edwards. They have Ronnie Stanley playing that left tackle position. They've moved the ball this year. So when you look at this right now, the Ravens are an above average team offensively and an excellent team defensively. I would even say they're very good offensively. That puts them in the second tier, and the 49ers are in the first tier. So that's just like the overarching zoomed out view of the matchup. But when I zoom in and I look at fracture points, this is the only one that I see, because the Ravens defense doesn't have a pronounced weakness. The 49ers defense, they have a pronounced weakness. If you're ranked number 18 against the run, if you're coming off a game where the Cardinals rushed for over 200 yards against you, that is by definition a pronounced weakness. And the 49ers are going to have to ameliorate that weakness against the Baltimore Ravens. That's just how it's going to have to be. Otherwise, Baltimore is going to be able to control game flow. And as soon as you control game flow, then you can further tire out a defense. You can get the 49ers to a point where they're having to go out of their normal process offensively. I think that the 49ers are so damn explosive this year, and they control the explosiveness aspect of the game so well offensively that they can overcome even a loss of game flow grip from their defense because of the run defense struggles, but it would certainly make things a little bit more complicated at the very least for the 49ers. And the question is, can they do it against the Ravens defense that has been good this year? The Ravens defense has been good, but this is what the 49ers offense brings to the table. This brings defensive strength to the table as well. So the x-axis is offensive strength. The y-axis is defensive strength, and this is the passing game. So this is how well teams pass and how well they defend the pass. Brock Purdy and the 49ers offense is galaxies ahead of the rest of the league. They're all the way over here. Galaxies ahead of the rest of the league. Pass defense-wise, y-axis, they're better than league average. I think the pass defense has actually been really impressive, especially as of late. And this is weighted more heavily toward recent performances. The 49ers are doing well. They're not doing it well as the Ravens, whose pass offense has been rather unremarkable with Lamar Jackson. But the pass defense, it's behind only Kansas City's, the New York Jets, and the Cleveland Browns. So when you take a look at how good and explosive the 49ers pass offense has been way over here, it is going to be a challenge against the Ravens pass defense that has been among the league's best. But the data indicates that the 49ers have so much damn explosiveness that they should be able to just iron out any issues that they have in the other phases of the game against the Ravens with that explosiveness, even against the good Baltimore defense. And we'll start talking about the individual player matchups in a little bit. But again, bird's eye view, this is why the 49ers are 5.5 point favorites. I believe that control of this game's flow will come down to the 49ers run defense and also to the Ravens run defense. The Ravens are a top 10 run defense, top 10 pass defense. The 49ers are a top 5 pass defense, but they are a number 18 run defense. And I think it depends on how the 49ers man up in this game. They can blow Baltimore completely out of the building, no questions asked, if they deliver the type of run defense that I think that they're capable of delivering when they're fully healthy. That's going to depend on Eric Armstead and Javon Hargrave coming back. We'll see if that ends up being the case. That's going to depend on, does the extra day and a half of rest, because that's what Monday Night Football does for you, does that allow the 49ers to overcome some of the fatigue issues that they've been suffering? One of the biggest benefits that the 49ers got from Seattle's win over Philadelphia last night is that they are now the odds-on favorites to be the NFC's number 1 seed. And if they are the number 1 seed, they won't have to play wild card weekend. The 49ers have, over the past 3 weeks, missed 12 tackles, 14 tackles, and 16 tackles, respectively. That number is increasing. If there is one pattern that we've identified from this 49ers defense over the course of the year, it is that fatigue is correlated with missed tackles. And missed tackles are obviously correlated with poor run defense. But over the first 5 weeks of the season, the 49ers didn't miss tackles. They missed a few, but they were elite as far as how low their missed tackle rate was. From week 6 to 8, which coincided with the 49ers' only 3 losses of the season, they missed a lot of tackles, and they were obviously very tired. And the game against the Cincinnati Bengals really rounded out that stretch. Bye week happened. 49ers rested. Coming out of the bye week, again, elite as far as not missing tackles. Over the first 3 games after the bye week, the 49ers were very good in that department. And then over the past 3 games is when 12, 14, and 16 missed tackles happened. So my question is, obviously there's still fatigue. Everybody's fatigued at this time of the year, but the 49ers seem very dependent on rest and on freshness to tackle well. And Baltimore's coming in with a bruising offensive line and a bruising run offense. I mean, Gus Edwards weighs 238 pounds. They don't make him like that in the league anymore. Will the 49ers be able to tackle? Are they going to use what happened in Arizona as motivation? And even if they do use that as proper motivation, will they be physically healed enough and not too bruised to be able to get the job done on the field against the Ravens? They're going to have that extra day before Monday Night Football, but they're not going to be as rested as they probably will be for the divisional round of the playoffs. That's the big difference. So if the 49ers struggle to tackle in this game, and if the Ravens run well against them, I don't think that necessarily means this is how things are going to play out in the playoffs for the 49ers. The Ravens can't play them in the NFC playoffs. That wouldn't happen until the Super Bowl. And B, the rest situation is going to be different. But it is going to be a very, very indicating and telling barometer of where the 49ers are at right now in terms of rest, in terms of hunger, in terms of just run defense in general, because that is the key fracture point in this football game. You know, more on Baltimore. Obviously, they've got Lamar Jacskon as their quarterback, and now he's second in the MVP race as far as the odds go, but he's not having a great season passing the football, as you can see here. The passing game for Baltimore has just been a bit above average if you look at the x-axis. But what Lamar Jacskon has this year that he didn't have the last time the 49ers faced the Ravens in 2019 is has a real wide receiver crew. I mean, Odell Beckham is obviously on this football team, but he's not even the leading receiver for the Ravens. You go up and down the lineup for this team. Zay Flowers actually has the most catches. They also have Rashad Bateman, Tylan Wallace, Nelson Aguilar. They no longer have their tight end, Mark Andrews, who's on IR, but Isaiah Likely has been doing a good job. It was Mark Andrews and everybody else when we looked at the weapons of the Ravens the last time they played the 49ers in 2019. So this offense is much more potentially dynamic on the perimeter than it was before. That being said, Lamar Jacskon has not been playing as well in the pass game or even in the run game. He had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons in the run game in 2019 and 2020, but he hadn't been the same quarterback as he was back then. He's good, but he's not MVP level, right? Brock Purdy's playing MVP level football. Lamar Jacskon isn't. So it has to be emphasized that teams change, teams evolve, players evolve. And what we're looking at right now from Baltimore is an absolutely elite defense, better ranked than the 49ers, but the offense is not in the same ballpark as San Francisco's, especially when it comes to the pass game, which is why you see the 49ers as the outlier way out there and the Ravens clumped up in the middle. But we always had to come back to comparative strengths, and Baltimore can really, really run the football. I think if there's a weakness personnel-wise on this Ravens offense, it is the left guard, John Simpson. And I like to start by going through the trenches. And Ronnie Stanley's a hell of a left tackle for Baltimore. Ronnie Stanley's dealing with a concussion. I'll assume that he's going to play. You never know for sure. But obviously, he's going to see his share of matchups against Nick Bosa, Chase Young, and all those guys. Tyler Linderbaum's been good at center for this team. Morgan Moses has been good at right guard. And then Kevin Zeitler, who was with the Giants last year, is one of their best linemen. He is the right guard for Baltimore. All in all, it is a good front. When we take a look at the battle of the offensive lines in this game in terms of pass protection, I think undoubtedly Baltimore has an edge along the offensive line. Look at this graph that you could put. This is quarterback performance relative to pass protection. So the pass protection is going to be indicated on the x-axis. The further to the right a quarterback's dot is, the better his pass protection is. The further to the left a quarterback's dot is, the worse his pass protection is. As you can see, there's a general correlation between quality of pass protection and efficiency is on the y-axis, so moving up and down. This is the Brock Purdy is the clear MVP graph. Look at where Purdy is. More efficient than anyone else by a country mile. On top of that, though, he's there despite the fact that his pass protection is below average. Where's Lamar Jackson? Lamar Jackson's way over here. Lamar Jackson's getting good pass protection, and he has good efficiency, but he has about what you'd expect based on how good his pass protection has been. So the 49ers are a team that I think is incomparable as far as how strong their offense has been. They're one of the strongest offenses in NFL history. This is what the Baltimore Ravens defense, which is really good, is going to have to deal with. The 49ers are the best offense through 14 games outside of the Tom Brady New England Patriots. 36.9% DVOA. That's not far behind what the 2007 and the 2010 New England Patriots did. If the 49ers perform in this game the way that people think they can perform, even against a good defense, and I'll talk very peripherally about that matchup here in a few minutes, the 49ers can become the best offense ever through 15 games. That's what's at stake here. Maybe I should take off John Simpson. I'm talking about the 49ers offense, not the Ravens left guard. But that's what's at stake here in the 49ers and the Ravens. I mean, there's some historical benchmarks that the 49ers can either clear or fall short of, and all of it's part of the MVP conversation, with Brock Purdy being the favorite and Lamar Jackson being the second, the number 2 right now in the betting markets for MVP. All right, I'm going to go back to the rosters here. I'm going to talk a little bit about Brock Purdy against this Ravens defense that I don't think has a pronounced weakness. Remember, Jadeveon Clowney's still in the league. He plays for the Ravens, and he's having a nice season. On the other side, you have Kyle Van Noy. And Kyle Van Noy, I mean, they've stocked up at strategic spots with veterans who might be on the tail end of their careers, but guys who have gotten the job done off the edge. So the Ravens can rush you off the edge with Kyle Van Noy and with Jadeveon Clowney. They've got good linebackers in Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. I mean, those are two good stack linebackers that clean up messes right behind the interior and the exterior of the defensive line. Michael Pierce, the big nose tackle. Justin Matabuki, another big defensive tackle type for this Baltimore team. It is a good front seven that also includes a linebacker who rushes a lot in Odafe Owe coming off one of the edges. So a lot of pass rushers for Baltimore. In that way, they're built similar to the 49ers. There's a reason why this Baltimore defense, again, is ranked number 2 in the league. That is ahead of even San Francisco's this year. So it's going to be quite the test for this star-studded 49ers offense. And then you look at the secondary, you know, it's funny. I didn't ever think I'd be saying that Marlon Humphrey is a weakness, but Marlon Humphrey, the cornerback, might be the weakest link of this Baltimore defense. And I don't want to say that he's a pronounced weakness, just like I wrote there at the bottom. This Ravens unit is solid from top to bottom. They're top 10 against pass, top 10 against run. They have missed a few tackles, just like any team misses tackles when it's fatigued It is a different beast, though, to face this 49ers offense, even if you've got really good safeties like Geno Stone, even if Brandon Stevens is playing well at that cornerback position. Facing the 49ers offense is facing this. It's facing an absolute juggernaut that, especially through the air, has been awesome lately. And we know that Christian McCaffrey, on top of this, on top of how good the 49ers have been passing wise way out here, we know that Christian McCaffrey is the only player over 1,000 yards rushing in the entire NFL. So the 49ers are just special in that way offensively. And my bet is that they're going to compromise this Ravens defense, regardless of, the 49ers, they put themselves in the position to win even against the Browns defense, which obviously has been the best in the league this year, especially at home. The Browns have been historically good. We can visualize it on the screen right now. The 49ers gave the Browns defense everything they could handle on that very final drive, and that was without their three stars, Trent Williams, or a healthy Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel, and Christian McCaffrey. You have to think that at home, more fully stocked and healthy, the 49ers can make some noise against the Ravens defense, which hasn't been quite as good as Cleveland's. But boy, will this be an awesome matchup on both sides of the football. I'm really looking forward to it. Don't forget about the third side of the football, special teams. You have to be aware of that. Baltimore has a little bit of an edge there. But the betting line reflects the fact that the 49ers are just so much better than everyone else in terms of explosiveness. And they've been able to iron out issues, just like they ironed out some of those missed tackling issues against Arizona. But this is not Arizona anymore. This is the Baltimore defense that's at the top of the league instead of the Cardinals defense that is at the bottom of it. I think the game flow control comes down to this run defense. We'll see what the 49ers can do. Thing is, when you're as explosive as the 49ers, even loss of game flow control doesn't necessarily have to be fatal. That's what you're dealing with when it's one of the best offenses in NFL history, and that's what San Francisco brings. All right, Q&A, a couple of these questions, and then I'm off to get some Italian food. 49ers have to run the ball to wear down the Ravens' defensive line. I mean, yeah, that's a given. I'm talking matchup specific stuff right here, right? I'm talking about the Ravens and the 49ers and the uniquely efficient brands of football in terms of NFL history that they're bringing to the table. This is a key for every game. You're going to want to wear down the defensive line by running. You're a run-first offense. Set up Brock Purdy for his sensational passing efficiency. And if the Ravens come out and stack boxes, Brock Purdy's got to set up the run with his arm efficiency so that the run can have some more room to operate. So that way you can bludgeon the Ravens into submission. Joseph Gold, no relation to Robbie, maybe there is, says that Mooney Ward is like primetime 2.0. Yeah, Charvarius Ward is absolutely a top 10 cornerback. You're not a leader in the league in pass breakups and then number 2 in interceptions unless you're a top 10 corner. That's going to be big in this game. Charvarius Ward on Odell Beckham, but there's Zay Flowers as well. I don't know how exactly the 49ers are going to play it, but the pass defense of the 49ers has taken a big step up under Steve Wilks, and they're going to want to continue that to make sure Lamar Jackson doesn't, stays inefficient relative to Brock Purdy passing-wise. It's Purdy way over at the edge of those graphs, and Lamar Jackson's been middling with his arm this year. Now, he has run, and I think that's where the disciplined pass rush is going to come in. There's a lot of similarity to me between Philadelphia and Baltimore in that you have a good offensive line in front of a quarterback that can also win with his legs. And so I think that the 49ers will be gearing up to run a rush in a disciplined fashion again. It was the Philadelphia blueprint. I don't think they're going to use the same exact blueprint against Baltimore. I think Lamar Jackson's a better player than Jalen Hurts. But I do think that some of those principles are going to apply in this game as well. No, you do not want to blitz the hell out of Lamar. That's not what you want to do. Blitzing means bringing an extra man. That's what Lamar Jackson is going to crush if those blitzes aren't well disguised. You want to rush and contain him with 4 players, maybe even sack him with 4 rushers, but you want to have 7 in coverage. That's the kind of stuff that it's beaten Lamar Jackson in the past. You have to have the horses to do that in coverage. You have to have the horses to do that to rush, but playing Lamar Jackson straight up so that he can't escape, I think is a lot smarter than blitzing the hell out of him. 49ers, to shore up that interior defensive line, are probably going to have to get some guys back. So we'll see what the statuses of Javon Hargrave and Eric Armstead are for this game. Gus Edwards is the lead running back for Baltimore after Mitchell went down. So Gus Edwards, again, he's built like a bowling ball. He's 240 pounds. If the 49ers have been struggling to tackle, well, it won't be easy to tackle Gus Edwards. So it's going to be a challenge for San Francisco, undoubtedly. Smash that like button and post your questions. I did see what the 49ers did to Jalen Hurts. That's why I'm talking about the 49ers employing the same blueprint against the Ravens. David Morazzo just has the overarching key. The offense just needs to keep scoring. Yes, the 49ers have such an explosive offense that they can cover up so many other deficiencies. And if that happens, they will win. Now, Baltimore also has the number 2 defense in the league. That's what makes this matchup so compelling. Again, I showed you this at the start. I mean, let's look at some of the other teams that are comparable to what the 49ers and the Ravens have done so far this year. This is it through in NFL history through 14 games, or since this has been tracked in 1981. But that's since the 49ers won their first Super Bowl. The best teams per DVOA through 14 games. You got 07 New England. All right, we know 18-1. 91 Washington. They won the Super Bowl that year. The 85 Bears, one of the most famous teams of all time. The 49ers are ahead of the 85 Bears. The 2010 Patriots, the 2012 Patriots, those are both Brady teams, right? The 2012 Patriots got beaten by the Ravens of all teams and didn't make it to the Super Bowl. And the Ravens also beat the 49ers that year. The 95 49ers, who ended up losing to the Packers in the playoffs. The 99 Rams, that was the first year of Greatest Show on Turf. Boy, the 99 on Rams, what a team. They had a number 1 defense. Everybody remembers them for their offense, but the defense was number 1. And that just goes to show you sometimes a really good defense is also backed by its offense. It's complementary football. The 95 Cowboys, they won the Super Bowl that year. The 98 Broncos under Mike Shanahan, they won the Super Bowl that year. And the 2005 Colts, Peyton Manning and company. So Baltimore's the 11th best team per DVOA at this time. The 49ers, the 3rd. And those are a lot of great teams that are stacked up against what the Ravens and the 49ers are doing right now. As you noticed, none of the 49ers Super Bowl winners even made this list. So this is an impressive list as far as regular season efficiency. And this is going to be the Christmas present to end the regular season at Levi's Stadium. Thank you, Madeline. Appreciate you. Somebody's saying that this 49ers team is way more physical than the Greatest Show on Turf. Sure, but the Ravens are way more physical than the Greatest Show on Turf might have been too. So we will see. According to Greg Cosell, who I really, really like, I respect Greg Cosell, San Francisco's run defense is not as bad as it looks. Well, the 49ers missed a lot of tackles against Arizona. I don't think their fits were terrible. I think they missed some tackles. I don't know what the 49ers run defense looks like. I don't know what that means. I'll just tell you where they're ranked. DVOA number 18. That's below average. I think they've been below average. They gave up 200 plus to Arizona. Was some of it garbage yardage? Sure. Do you have to tackle better? Sure. But that's all part of the overall evaluation. And Baltimore's the number 1 run offense. So the 49ers have work to do. And the first step toward doing it is getting those defensive tackles back. Christopher Lockwood says the greatest team of all time is the 89 Niners. Yeah, the 89 Niners outscored their playoff opponents by 100 points. So the DVOA rankings that I put up on the screen here for you, this is obviously regular season stuff. It doesn't include the playoffs. So we're just looking at teams through this point of the year. The legacies are truly going to be determined in the postseason. I get it. So that the 89 Niners are the standard to which all playoff teams are going to be held because they outscored their opponents by a record 100 points. I totally understand. All we can do now is compare against the data that we have, and that is teams through the first 14 weeks of the season. Talk here is that only the 49ers can beat themselves the rest of the year. I think injuries can beat the 49ers too. But yeah, I mean, you look at the efficiency of where the 49ers are as a football team, and I think you can very comfortably say that this is the best team in football, especially when it's healthy. And now we have to see if they can withstand the rest of this marathon. This is a good stat. The 49ers have the fewest drop passes in the NFL this year, only 6. I'm going to have to tweet that. Thank you. Go for Broke is great. He always has the best stats that he adds to the show. That's a receiver stat, but guess what? It's also a quarterback stat. Brock Purdy throws a really catchable football. Really catchable football. Brock Purdy is an elite quarterback. There's no more question about it. The question now, and it's a very fair one, is Brock Purdy the best QB in the NFL? Stats like this help his case. He throws a really catchable ball, completion percentage right up at the top. You know what's a fun stat? Brock Purdy has generated slightly more expected points this year with his legs than Lamar Jacskon. Brock Purdy and Lamar Jacskon have a 10-yard split time that is 1/100th of a second different. I think it's 166 and 167. So Brock Purdy's got that elite short area quickness. That stat often blows people away. It's not even a stat. It's just a simple measurement number. But that elite short area quickness has allowed him to manipulate the pocket better than any other QB in the league this season. And that, for me, puts Brock Purdy right up at those elite levels. Combine that with the deep throws and the intermediate throws and the short throws that he's been making. It's been sensational. One stat for you here is that the 49ers and Brock Purdy, they're the most efficient deep passing team in the league. They're the most at 21 yards per attempt. They're the most efficient intermediate passing team in the league at 12.8 yards per attempt. And they're the second most efficient short passing team in the league at 7.6 yards per attempt, or 7.5. Sorry, 7.5. The number one team in short passing efficiency this year, the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jacskon, 7.6 yards per attempt on short passes. So the short game determines a whole heck of a lot. Your efficiency there is big. 49ers coverage is going to have to be on point against Lamar Jacskon and company. All right, hope you enjoyed the first 49ers Ravens preview. As you can tell, we're going to get deep into the weeds with this stuff. So I hope that you buckle up, subscribe, get ready for this because it's going to be a whole lot of fun.